the Department of Home Affairs. Let me not start on the wrong footing. My colleague, the Deputy Minister of Home Affairs, Re Njabule Nzuza, the Director General of the Department of Home Affairs, Mr. Tommy Makode, the Deputy Commissioner for Operations of the Border Management Authority, Major General Chilembe, members of the Refugee Appeal Authority who might be present, and the Standing Committee on Refugee Affairs, senior management of the Department of Home Affairs, media houses at large, and thank you very much for honoring us, and all the guests present and people listening on the live stream. Exactly 4 years ago, the Department of Home Affairs embarked on a painstaking exercise of drafting the white paper on citizenship, immigration, and refugee protection towards a complete overhaul of the migration system in South Africa, and will from now henceforth refer to this whole heading as the white paper. The process resulted in the Cabinet approving the white paper on Wednesday, the 1st of November 2023, for public comments. The white paper has been published in the Government Gazette number 49661. I repeat, 49661 on the 10th of November 2023. We will attach a copy of the Gazette to this statement. Conflicts, armed violence, disasters, pandemics, seeking better business and work opportunities, and other factors force people to leave their countries of origin to other countries. There have been consistent, loud voices calling for effective policy measures and legislative interventions dealing with migration in South Africa. These voices grow louder as violent clashes between foreign nationals and citizens rear their ugly heads. Many groups for and many groups against migration are gaining momentum. South Africa has different pieces of legislation dealing with citizenship, immigration, and refugee protection. These are the Citizenship Act, which is Act number 88 of 1995, the Immigration Act, which is Act number 12 of 2002, and the Refugee Act, which is Act number 130 of 1998, all of which have been amended. In fact, the South African Citizenship Act is a relic of the colonial era and a replica of the 1949 Citizenship Act under the Union of South Africa. Now, in practice, these pieces of legislation are not in harmony with each other. Piecemeal amendments were made without any policy framework whatsoever. If I'm not mistaken, the Immigration Act has been amended 5 times already since it came into existence in 2004. And all those amendments were just piecemeal. Let me come to the issue of refugee protection. The United Nations adopted the 1951 United Nations Refugee Convention. And in 1967, the United Nations adopted protocol relating to the status of refugee. Meanwhile, the Organization of African Unity, today known as the AU, endorsed its own 1969 OAU Convention governing the specific aspects of refugees' problems in Africa in order to deal with peculiar circumstances of migration and refugee in Africa. This was done in the spirit of Pan-Africanism. The 1961 Organization of African Unity Convention prohibits refusal of entry, expulsion or extradition of asylum seekers and refugees, and also provide for certain exclusions on certain grounds. In fact, the refugee laws in most of the African Union countries, based on the 1969 OAU Convention, are more stringent than the Refugee Act in South Africa. Furthermore, the principle of Pan-Africanism does not promote illegal entry in the countries that are signatories to the 1969 OAU Convention. Asylum during the apartheid era. Asylum seekers and refugees were not recognized in South Africa until 1993. During the apartheid era, South Africa did not accede to any of the international or regional conventions relating to the status of refugees and asylum seekers. South Africa administered its own refugee policy on an ad hoc basis, granting refugee status mostly to white nationals from Zimbabwe, Portugal, and Mozambique. The Aliens Control Act governed immigration during the apartheid era. The preferences of whites over non-whites, so-called non-whites or blacks, became the focus of the immigration policy. The Refugee Act was passed in 1998 in line with the 1951 Convention, the 1967 Protocol, and the 1969 OAU Convention. In other words, in line with all the other international conventions that exist in this field. Now, the Refugee Act in South Africa prohibits refusal of entry, expulsion of, or extradition of asylum seekers and refugees. Let me come to the accession of these international agreements. In 1996, 2 years after the first democratic elections, South Africa acceded to the various international conventions, the three that I've mentioned. But this was done without the government having developed a clear policy on migration, including refugee protection. Now, the government did not make reservations and exceptions permitted in terms of international law. All these international conventions I've mentioned, they provide for countries to take exceptions and reservations on areas that will be difficult for their countries to carry. But unfortunately, we did not do so. Both the 1951 Convention and the 1967 Protocols provide for these reservations. In terms of Article 42 of the 1951 Convention, which we have attached to the white paper, the convention has got 46 articles. And in terms of Article 42, any state may make reservations to articles of the convention other than Article 1, Article 3, Article 4, Article 16.1, Article 33, and Article 36 to 46. Article 1 is about definition. Article 2 is about discrimination. Article 4 is about religion. Article 33 is about, Article 16.1 is about access to the courts. And Article 33 is about refoulement, a French term meaning returning a person from the country where they might have run away from persecution. And Article 36 to 46 inclusive are about administrative issues. Now, the United Nations was saying, on these mentioned articles,